Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be making the Spring into Crochet bag. This is a really pretty easy to do project. It's something you can just take with you and do wherever you are. Doesn't need much in the way of yarn, and it's really fun and easy to do, and I do hope you'll enjoy it. So what do we need to get started with this project? Okay, so we're going to need a crochet hook. We're going to need a few stitch markers, and for the yarn we're going to need 4 balls of finch, and we're going to need 2 in a main colour and 2 in white. So if you've got your supplies and you've got your pattern in front of you, let's get started. So before we get started, I just wanted to share one little tip with you that I use when working with 2 threads of yarn at the same time, or 2 balls of yarn even at the same time. And that is just to prep your yarn so you have some nice long tails and you're not constantly pulling at the wool all the time. Find yourself a small little bag, something like this. It's an old sandwich bag, and put the 2 balls of wool inside the bag. Then just place your 2 ends together and just pull and smoothly combine a long tail, a long thread of your chosen colours. Then simply pop them back in, and by the time you've done that, you've got a whole long thread of working yarn in the 2 different colours. So you can just keep pulling them as you go and keep yourself a little supply of prepared yarn. Okay, with that said, let's carry on. So we're going to be starting our bag at the base, working through the main body and then finishing with the handle all in one go. There's no stopping, and then you have your little cute button to pop on at the end. So to begin, we're going to work with the spiral rounds of the base. So if you're ready, let's get going. So to start our bag, we're going to be working 12 trebles into a magic ring. In US terms, that's double crochet, but we're going to be working in UK terms for this entire pattern. So to start, chain 3 and work your trebles into the ring. Work along with me if you like, and we'll do this together. When you get to the end of that round, just pull your tail tightly to close that centre circle. But do not join, because we're now going to work in spiral rounds. So continuing on into the first stitch, which is actually your chain 3, into that first stitch we're going to work 2 trebles, and then we're going to work 2 trebles in every stitch around. So do not join, just simply work straight into that top of that chain 3. So it will look a bit strange to begin with, but don't worry, it corrects itself as you go. So the end of the first round was 12, and at the end of this second round we will have 24 stitches. So let's work together. So now we're back at the beginning, and another really great tip is to use a stitch marker to mark the beginning of your round. You probably want to do this before you start round 2. But better late than never, so let's pop that into my first stitch, because we're not going to join, we're going to continue now in spiral rounds. So the end of this round you should have 24 stitches. So that'll be 2 in each of the previous round's stitch. "24 stitches. Okay. Round 3. So for round 3, we're going to work 1 treble into the first stitch. Place your mark. Whoops, my marker's gone flying away. It's back. There we go. So place your marker in the first stitch. Don't be like my yellow combination today. It's quite fun to match a stitch marker up to your hook. Then you're going to place 2 trebles into the next stitch. And if you're anything like me and have a cat, you might find that you will also be crocheting cat hairs into your project too. There we go. So we worked 1 into the first and 2 into the second. And we're going to continue with that format, 1 in the next and then 2 in the next, all the way to the end of the round. And that should give you 36 stitches. Always count at the end, just to make sure. Okay, So that's pretty straightforward so far for this round. So again, it's 1 in the first, 2 in the next, 1 in the next, 2 in the next, 1 in the next, 2 in the next, all the way around to the beginning. So continue that round and then meet me for round 4. So let's start round 4 here. So here we are back at the beginning. I've got my yellow marker, so I'm going to pop that out, and in this round I'm going to work the following combination all the way around, and that is 2 into 1 stitch. In this case this is our first stitch of the round, so let's go right away and mark that before we lose that spot, because it can be quite tricky to lose that spot unless you know what you're counting. So 2 in the first there, and then 1 in the second, and this is a classic way to increase circle designs, whether you're working in a spiral or joined rounds. And then we work another one, so it's 2 plus 2, so 2 in one plus 2 in each of the next 2. So it's 2 1 1 2 1 1, and so on and so on, all the way around. So let's work that together for a little while, shall we? I'm about halfway through now, this round, almost halfway through, and you can see it's starting to look a bit like a seashell. It's very pretty. Carry on to the end and I will meet you at the end of this round. At the end of round 4 you should have 48 stitches, so do a quick count check before you move on to round 5, and if you're good to go, then let's tackle the last spiral round before we progress to joined rounds. So having worked those last 18 stitches, we're now just going to work the last 3, and here's how you do that. Into the next stitch, work 2 half trebles. Into the second to last stitch, work a half treble and a double crochet. This is all UK terms, remember. In the very last stitch, work 2 double crochets. And then that gives you kind of a nice graduation into the circle, so we don't get a step but we ease into the joined rounds. And the last thing to do is just to slip stitch even to the back loop of the first stitch of the round, which is this one. So we'll just remove our stitch marker here and just slip into the back stitch of this one. So we're now working on round 6 of our pattern, and if you, as I say, if you want to work into the back loop of this stitch, please feel free. I'm going to do that, but you can just work under 2 loops if you prefer. Again, don't forget to mark the beginning of your rounds if you want to. For the sake of the video and some of our beginners, that's what I'm going to do as well. So let's get started. Round 6. So you'll have 60 stitches at this stage from round 6, and at the end of this round you will also have 60 stitches, and that's how many stitches we'll have from now on. So it's probably a good idea to give it a quick count before you start, just to make sure. But if you're ready, let's go. So you start by chaining 3, and this counts as your first stitch, your first treble, and then we want to treble in each of the next 4 stitches. So now we want to half treble in each of the next 2 stitches. So half treble in here. Oops, it's 1 and 2, and then we're going to double crochet in each of the next 16 stitches. So we'll just give that a good flatten out, and it will start to shape and form a bit now as you work. It won't sit flat anymore. We just double check we've done 16 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Great. Now work half trebles in each of the next 2 stitches. Just 1 in each. Treble in the next stitch, and in this stitch I would advise you to place a marker. I'll put one of these big fat ones in here. Can't miss that one. Now treble in each of the next 9 stitches. just do a quick double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we need to half treble in each of the next 2. Half treble in each of the next 2. And then we want to double crochet in each of the next 16 again. And you can see how it's starting to turn a little bit, this shape here. So double crochet in each of the next 16. And again, just count back and double check you've done 16. It's a lot easier to check these sections as you go, because if you get to the end and find that you missed one stitch somewhere, it can be very frustrating to have to undo it all. So it's a great idea to check it as you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That's correct. I'm just going to give myself some more prepared thread just to work the last few stitches here. Otherwise you can get in a bit of a tangle and you'll end up pulling your yarn, and that's not fun. It can strain your arms and your hands. So we're almost at the end of this round, and we want to work 2 half trebles in the next 2 stitches. One treble in each of the next 5 stitches. 1, oops, 2, 3, oops, sorry, I missed a thread there. 3, 4, and 5. I'm not preparing my thread very well. It's fighting back. There's 5. And this is your chain 3 here, which is your first stitch. So now all we need to do is just slip stitch to the first stitch, and if you count your round, hopefully you will have 60 stitches still. Yeah. And as you can see, it's starting to tip out, but actually this is the right side, this is the wrong side. So there we go. That's round 6 done. So continuing on to round 7, I've already chained 3 and I've marked my stitch. Now we're going to work 1 treble in each of the next 4 stitches. Remember, this part is forming the side handle or the front handle, whichever way you want to use your bag. Now we're going to skip 1 stitch and we're going to work a shell in the next stitch. A shell is simply 3 trebles or double crochet US into the 1 stitch. So skip 1, work into this one. And then we're going to skip 2 stitches, and we're going to do that 6 times to create a total of 7 shells. So you want to skip 2 and work a shell in the next. Do that 6 times, and then I'll meet you there. There we are. First 7 shells, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we are now at our marked stitch, so we can remove that stitch marker now. At the end of those 7 shells, we're now going to skip one. We're going to skip this next stitch, and we're going to just work 1 treble in each of the next 9 stitches. To skip one again, and we're going to shell in the next stitch, so skip the next stitch and then shell in here. Oops, I think my hands are getting tired. And we're going to again do that 6 times and then create a 7th shell. And then we will just work a treble in the last of the 4 stitches, so that you have 4 stitches at the end. So this side is pretty much a mirror image of this side. But we'll work together if you would like to follow me along. If not, you can skip to the end. for me now. That's why it's a really good idea to prep your threads if you can, because you do get it through, you go through it really quickly when you get to this stage, and it will start to pull, and it can make it very hard on your hands if you're having to constantly pull your threads. So always prep plenty of length, a good length of thread. Okay, so we've now done the shells on this side, which total 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the last thing we need to do on the end of this row is skip 1 stitch and then work 1 treble in the last 4 stitches. And then just slip stitch to the chain 3. And there we go, that's your round 7 completed. And you can see it's starting to take shape. Should be nice and fairly straight. Where are we? There's the middle, there it is. There we go. And we'll come back for round 8. here we are at the end of round 18 and ready to do round 19 and then work our handle, which is on this side. Now I've got mine laid out this way to show you the way it would sit if you decided to use your handle that way. But our design is actually meant to go this way. So your handle sits here. So you might want to use it to crochet, and you can have your ball in there and your yarn coming out the side. You could use it for anything. That's how I originally designed it, but then I realised it can actually go either way depending on your preference. And if you received a classic crate this month, you would have got an extra ball of yarn in a lovely contrasting colour to your either your silver, your mandarin or your ocean blue colour. So moving on to round 19. This is a simple round, however, if you're new to crochet, then have a few extra stitch markers handy. And after working your stitches, place one stitch marker in the first and 9th double crochets at each end of both of the handle sections while you work through this round. At the end of this round, the stitch markers will clearly define where to begin and then join your bag strap. It'll make it so much easier for you to see that if you use the stitch marker method. And when you've finished your round 19, the top of your bag will look like this. So here we are at the last stage of the pattern, which is putting on the handle. The first thing you need to do is turn your bag inside out. And we're going to be working on the section in the middle of the round with all the 9 stitches that have not been joined. So this is where we joined our rounds here, and this is where the middle of the round was with these 9 stitches. So this is where we're going to start our handle from the wrong side of the design. So grab your yarn and hook, and where you have, if you followed the instructions to put a stitch marker in, then that first stitch is where we're going to pull through and start. So join your yarn with a slip stitch. You will have to move your tails to this side because don't forget we're working on the wrong side. Then chain 1 and work a half double crochet into that same stitch. So now what we're going to do is just work one half treble all the way along to the 9th stitch. So that's one half treble in the next 8 stitches. You can work your tail in if you like I'm doing. Saves a lot of sewing in later. And now we're at the last stitch of the handle. And there we are, that's your first row of the handle done. Now turn your work and chain 1. And now this is the front side of your bag. So now we're going to work one half treble in the first stitch and then one half treble in the next 8 stitches, which will give you 9 half trebles. And don't forget to pull your thread through at times, because working with a big hook and double heavy threads can be quite hard on the hands, so you want to make sure there's no pulling there that's causing you to strain your hands and your arms and your wrists. Oops, I missed one. There we go. Lost my concentration there for a moment. So we're working the second row of this handle all the way to the end. Because that one here, because we pulled that nice and tight, that might be a bit tough to get in that last one, but just push the hook through and you'll get there. It's just to get that first edge nice and tidy here. And there we go. There is the beginning of your handle. And you just need to keep continuing on the handle row 2 with half trebles in every stitch until you get to the desired length. You can make your handle as long or as short as you like, as long as you can get your arm in it. If you want it a nice short handle to put your arm in, or your wrist inside the handle. Or you can make, if you've got enough yarn left, you can make a longer handle and make it a shorter bag. But I wouldn't recommend making the handle too long, because it can stretch this fabric in time. So have a go at that, and then when you've made your length of handle, we'll attach it to the other side and I'll show you how to do that. So here we are, I am on the end of the handle row. I've worked my last stitch and I'm still working on the wrong side of the bag, so the bag is inside out at the moment. What we need to do next is attach this side of the handle to this part here. So if you marked your stitches, then you'll know where they are, but they're the 9 stitches of the other side of the joined round. This is the side we joined, and here are the 9 stitches. So what you need to do is similar to the beanie one if you did that when you join the ribbing. So this is the first stitch I need to join to, so I'm going to remove that hook now. Insert my hook into that first of the 9 stitches, and I'm going to zoom the camera in for you so you get a better view of this. There we go, here we are, that's better. So here's my working loop from the end of my row, and my hook is in the first stitch of the 9. So I pull my working loop through, just grab my, I'll tuck the rest of the handle underneath so you can see a bit more clearly. So here is my working loop pulled through. Chain 1, so I'm working into the front loop of my first of 9 stitches and the back loop of the first of the handle stitch, and it is quite hard to see there, so do pull it through and make sure you are going into the first stitch. Yarn over and then pull that loop through all the loops on the hook, and then you have made your first seal. You can repeat that all the way along so that you're joining the front loop to either the front loop of the handle or the back loop of the handle. It's your choice. You can see how that works out in a minute with the back loop and then decide how you want to do yours. So let's do that together, working in each corresponding stitch. So I have another 8 to go, or skip, whichever. last one. Because we didn't chain one at the beginning of these, just try and create a neater edge. It will be a little bit tricky just to go into that last one, but as I say, just push your hook through. If you can't get your hook through, maybe try a smaller hook just to open up that space and then put your hook through. And pull through the last. That's it. And now I'm going to cut. And I will stitch that in. That is pretty much it. I will just quickly secure my loop here because I want to show you how it's going to, oops, how it looks. It's being very naughty. How it looks. Just working into the front loop and the back loop. You see you get much less bulk on the handle. And now when I turn my bag inside out, you can see that is quite a nice tidy neat edge. I did find that this fabric does stretch quite a bit, so if you get a bit of a gap here, just use your tail just to stitch that down in place. And then the last thing you do, I don't have a button here, but hopefully in your box you will have had a button. And the last thing to do, this one's inside out too. The last thing to do is to put a button on. And there you have a very cute bag. I really hope you like this project. I had a lot of fun making this, and a lot of fun designing it, and a lot of fun thinking of the ways in which I would use it and how I would use it. And these were the 3 colours from the September box. Just about fit those in, and that's the other way to have the handle. These little tags unfortunately never did arrive, they actually got lost. So we do sell them. I do have a few left, and I do sell these on my site if you want to create crochet, or you can just pop another handmade button on it. Whichever way you use your bag. I hope you enjoy it, and thanks so much for watching. It'd be super cool if you could like and subscribe, because that really helps me get noticed. Thanks very much for looking, and enjoy your Spring into Crochet bag.